How we doing, everybody? Welcome to Ep.3 of Main Street. Glad to have you all back. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, give us 5 stars. We are now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So if you want to listen while you're on a drive or on a run, pop in the AirPods, turn us on. We finally got college football action. I got that there with the turn us on. That got me too. We finally got some college football we can talk about. We'll jump into each of those games. I wanted to start with. I'm going to put you on the
Hang on a
spot.
sec. Hang on a sec. I just want to give my 2 cents that, I had the queso rolling Saturday, and
All right.
it's just some game day food for the first time, obviously, in a calendar year. Man, it felt good to have college football back.
Now that going queso just always brings up college football. You know, little nachos, some wings. I did wings myself. Just it's here. Get excited. Didn't go too all out yet. Don't want to put the cart before the horse because, as we'll get into here later on this week, next weekend's going to be incredible. Probably not going to leave the couch.
No, I mean our buddy was asking for a shout out, but I gotta say, Levi has already told his wife that he is going to be no help next weekend.
Yeah, well,
and so he has said he's locking himself in the basement. So Levi, kudos to you for putting your freaking foot down and
yes,
getting that.
We need more people like that.
That situation to go in your favor.
Yeah, we'll see how he's doing after that Miami Notre Dame game. big CJ Carr guy.
Yeah.
So, obviously, though, we had football, but before we jump into the games, a lot has happened.
Yeah. Big weekend.
Starting off Wednesday, we get the news that drops that Pat Fitzgerald has won his settlement against Northwestern, who fired him for some potential hazing. Well, here we are. I think it's been like 2 years now. After an investigation, absolutely nothing was found of any sort of Fitzgerald's understanding, and he's getting a settlement, $130 million. And my thoughts are like, why are we firing a guy before any due process?
Here's what I think. This is kind of like my take, and I think a lot of places are operating this way, is that the optic and perception has been running the show at a lot of places these days. And so like when you have an optic and a perception out there, these entities or schools, whether it's high school, whether it's college or some other, or even in the workforce, the due process stuff doesn't seem to hold up much until or regarding security of your job. And so like I think that a lot of people are operating on the idea that, like, well, gosh, we have this freaking optic now, and like, well, there's smoke, so we got to make sure we get out in front of it and all this stuff. And now Northwestern admitted, like, okay, well, there's been nothing wrong with what happened with Pat Fitzgerald. Obviously hazing did take place, but he had no condoning of it. He had no knowledge of it. So that's basically just another situation where kids did something stupid and the coach paid for it.
Yeah, that was also in the time of Northwestern had a lot going on. I think it was like a lacrosse coach had gotten fired for hazing. They had a lot of news.
Your feed.
The biggest news that's dropped since football season of last year, with SEC going to a 9+1 model. They're going to go to 9 conference games. Jim Phillips was asked about it, the ACC commissioner, former Northwestern athletic director, by the way. He was asked about it, and he said if SEC goes, ACC would go. So how soon until we get the actual announcement from the ACC that they're going to follow suit?
Well, obviously, I don't think it really matters on terms of when. It's just it's just a matter of when. It's not an if thing. So, like, I think that while everybody's focused on college football starting, like there's some time, but I mean, I think that now when you put it out there that you're going to change your schedule to be a 9-game to follow the SEC, like it's just a matter of them making the announcement. Like it should be already an understanding, in my opinion, with it being public knowledge. But man, so happy to hear that the SEC finally got on board with a 9-game schedule. And ultimately, like we said before, on our posts and Facebook, like Kurt Cignetti bullied those guys.
Yeah. Now Kurt Cignetti has to be the one that's got to go change his schedule now because he can't say all that about the SEC and then keep playing 3 FCS or very, very bad FBS teams.
And so, like, I just think it's such a good idea. I mean, I think those guys want to play those games in the first place, but they were really trying to strong arm the SEC as best as they could, and they ultimately did so. So
I think with this announcement too, SEC is going to try and strong arm everyone now into the, hey, well, we changed our schedule modifications. Now you got to follow our 5+11 model for the college football playoff.
That's a good point. Like that kind of gives them a little leverage, but in all reality, they were playing catch up with this move, not moving ahead.
Yeah.
So, like, if anything, maybe they get the continuance of having the benefit of the doubt when 2 teams are 9-3 or 10-2. Like because, like we've said before, the SEC does get the traditional look at like their conference is better, even though I would argue the Big Ten is better. But it's all about, like, again, optics and perception and how you spin the stories. And no thanks to ESPN, and their love for the SEC.
ESECPN.
Yeah, that's right. Paul Feinbaum, spearheading that, right?
Yeah. And then Ross Dellinger tweeted out yesterday that NCAA is reviewing moving all week 1, week 0. So they would move week 1 up to week 0, where we had this past weekend, where everyone starts, and moving the schedule up a week for all of NCAA football.
So that would
100% on board with that.
Yeah, and that would basically just give you an extra bye to work with, because you wouldn't be moving. Like, you're not, obviously the scheduling process, that's not moving those Thanksgiving games up a week, either. They're just getting an extra bye week in there. And ultimately, I think that that's a good opportunity for teams that, with these conference and the realignment and all that stuff, teams like Stanford that have to travel across the country all over the place. And it's not just for them, but like they get the opportunity to stay home one more week, instead of the craziness of traveling across the country. And it just gives them a little more flexibility to stay home, especially when that these kids are still students too.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great move. And ultimately, it just lets us have a better weekend, more deep weekend of football 1 week earlier than what we had to this year, essentially. We would have think about having all those games next week be played just this last Saturday. And so that's a plus for the fans as well.
The one thing that'll get a little catchy on all that is NCAA does a really good job of utilizing Labor Day weekend, playing games Thursday, playing games Friday, Saturday. Then they do a primetime game Sunday and a primetime game Monday. So I don't know if we'd lose that, or if they would still do that, that would just be week 2.
I would imagine they still utilize that. I also like this from the standpoint that it gives the opportunity to other schools to also get primetime slots. I mean, you add one more week in there, a game that, like, look at Texas and Ohio State, like they're playing at 11 a.m. Yeah. To me, that should not happen. I mean, I'm not going to argue about a game that's number 1 versus number 3 at essentially the first week of the season, but like those games should be played at night, and it gives the opportunity to have other people also be on the main networks too. They're not being relegated to some regional, BTN Plus or something anything like that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Especially with how, like, your example of with the Big Ten having 18 schools, someone's going to be on BTN Plus or Peacock. And right there, we got to get away from Peacock. And now Big 12's going to Paramount Plus. So it's like, Yeah, we got to get away from that. Put it on national TV.
Yeah.
It's going to be funny 5 years from now, 4 years from now, where there's going to be this package that comes out, sports package, where you can get all the games from ESPN, Fox, all this. And it's like, oh, so we're right back to basic cable.
Right.
In a roundabout way.
Going to Peacock and to Paramount Plus, doesn't that really kind of feel like having to go to the grocery? I remember growing up in my small town in central Nebraska and having to go to the grocery store to pick up the coaxial attachment just to be able to see the pay-per-view game for the Huskers versus whatever, I mean, that's what those feel like. You have to go over, you have to subscribe to Peacock for a month or whatever just to be able to go watch the Huskers.
And it's funny because in the grand scheme of time, that was only like 18, 19 years ago. Like I remember paying $40 to watch Nebraska versus Southern Miss. Well, I didn't. My parents did, if we're being honest. But
right.
it's just like here we are now where unless you have certain ways, we won't bring them up so they don't get in trouble. But you get a guy that you're paying $10 a month for ESPN, $19.99 for BTN, $80 for Hulu, another $10 a month for Paramount. And it's like, at the end of the day, you're paying $250 a month for all these just to watch some college football. And it's like, well, back when this was all on cable, we were pissed off. We were paying $100 a month for cable.
Right.
Or for, I got to pay $125 for DirecTV. This is bullshit. Now we're paying $250.
Well, I remember when my wife and I first got married, we literally subscribed to Dish Network.
Yeah.
Just so we could get the Pac-12 network, as we've already stated my Oregon fanhood. Yep. And so they played a handful of games on Pac-12 network, and you couldn't get that on anything but Dish Network. So we paid $120 a month or whatever it was just to have Dish, and so we could have the sports package to have Pac-12 network in Nebraska.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because when my wife and I first met, she's a volleyball official. She follows volleyball religiously. She just spent the whole weekend down in Lincoln at the AVCA Classic. And when we first met, it's like, I got Hulu and we had to buy Sling so we could get Pac-12 network because she wanted to watch. Oregon and Washington have always been these premier volleyball programs, and USC, UCLA, Cal, like they've always been really good. And then there's me, like Pac-12 after dark. That was my shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't matter who was on. I was watching, and
right. I one last thing before we really dive deep into some more of this stuff is like when speaking of Pac-12 after dark, I remember like staying on my parents' like setting up a bed on the floor out in the like rec room, the basement. Yeah. And instead of sleeping in a bedroom, I would sleep out on the floor just so I could watch the Oregon-Arizona game or Arizona State game or whatever it was. Like, it's just, you're just crazy little fanboys, of college football. And it just doesn't get better than having a full slate from 11 a.m. to Hawaii football at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Late nights with Petros Papadakis, maybe.
Right.
God, you go from having some greats like Joel Myers to, going into the 9 p.m. kickoff, and here's a good old Petros coming on. It's like, how do I go from one extreme to the other?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, and I've said this before to you specifically, and a lot of people, Sean McDonough has to be like the all-time, like, he's going to be like a Hall of Fame announcer because he's, for whatever reason, he always gets the crazy moments.
Yeah.
And we're gonna dive into some memorable games and stuff later in this episode or whatever. But like, there's one reference on there that has to do with like him calling the game that makes it a memorable game for me.
Yeah. And it's funny because like McDonough and Gus Johnson have the same energy. McDonough has that energy because every game he's in is coming down to the final play.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State's up 70-3 on Nebraska, Frost's second year, whatever it was. McDonough's still yelling as Ohio State's going down to score their 77th point. Deep pass for the Buckeyes. Like, McDonough, this game's been over since like 3 minutes in. We don't gotta have the same energy, buddy.
Yeah, I love it though. I love it. I mean, just like he did the Nebraska-Tennessee game in '97.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yep.
And I remember Joel Makovicka fumbled coming toward the sideline that's like closest to you as you're watching.
Yeah.
And like we were already up like 42-17 or something
Yeah.
stupid. He's like, fumble!
He just loses it. And then meantime, last night watching that Hawaii versus Stanford broadcast, it's like, man, I'm falling asleep listening to these guys.
Oh my gosh.
There's so many, like, you hear a voice come and it just brings back instant memories. Like Mike Patrick did so many big Nebraska games for us, and so many big games. If you grew up in the Midwest, you're very familiar with Joel Myers. You may not know that's his name, but he did every big Fox Sports Midwest game there was in the 2000s.
I love that guy, and I always have to ask you. I text you every time I think of the guy, and I'm like, what was that dude's name?
Yeah. I think, what was it, like, every July, August, when we get built, we're watching old games, and you were watching, like, 2009 Oklahoma, Colorado, text me like, dude, our guy's calling this game. What's his name? It's like, dude, it's Joel Myers, baby. And then last weekend, right before we hopped on the podcast, I text you, he's like, yo, Joel Myers is announcing the Saints preseason game. Like, I'm only watching just to hear his voice because it brings back so many memories.
Gosh, he needs to be on like a prime time.
Yeah. Like, I would much rather listen to him than freaking Colt McCoy calling the primetime NBC game.
Yeah. No offense, Colt McCoy, but you are no Sean McDonough. You are no Joel Myers.
And Ndamukong Suh is still your daddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a little bit more. Indiana announced, it was Thursday, they are selling the rights to their field. It'll now be Merchants Bank Field at Memorial Stadium for Indiana. It is a 20-year deal for $50 million. That'll be $2.5 million a year. And with everything going on with all the rev share right now, I think we're going to be seeing more of this. I know Penn State earlier this summer announced a 15-year, $50 million deal. So I wanted to discuss, like, what are some of your ideas? Like, could it be too cliche for you to play Publix Field at Seminole Stadium or Doak Walker Stadium down there at Florida State?
Yeah, first of all, I actually really like this, just from the standpoint, like, with the ever evolving thing on name, image, and likeness and all that kind of stuff, and the game that these schools and these programs have to make or play, just to try to remain viable against other surging programs, and Indiana is one of those programs that's like, okay, we need to do something to solidify us so we're not just a flash in the pan. And I actually think that this deal with Merchants Bank is Merchants Bank basically betting on Indiana to have long-term success, because otherwise they don't. The idea is, like, if you're a bank, like, you don't want to put your name on a losing product, right? So, and honestly, their chairman did come out and say that if Indiana was 4-7 or 4-8 last year, like, they would not be here at the table with them. Yeah. So, I mean, that is a direct quote. So, I think it's kind of cool. It's obviously tied to success. It's obviously a financial gain for Indiana, but then also the brand benefits that Merchants Bank also gets from a national perspective. So it helps both parties, And actually, one other thing is that along with this, Merchants Bank is, like, apparently offering financial literacy programs to Indiana students through this or something. So, like,
that's kind of been a big question with NIL and rev share and everything, is, are a lot of schools going to start having financial literacy programs? So these guys aren't making all this money. They get out of college and all of a sudden they owe the IRS like millions of dollars because they didn't know how to file taxes.
Right. And I apologize for my camera tracking on me like crazy. I'm like, I have nothing but a white background behind me, and I'm not moving. I'm just like, so what is it right now? Be less upstairs.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on the name, and I would have to Google it. But Kansas just had some guy donate, like went full Texas Tech and donated $350 million to their program.
That's crazy. I did not see that. So
I mean,
that's
like,
wild
good
stuff.
for them.
Ever evolving sport, man. I mean, because college football is the driver on this stuff. So
yeah,
like, and it's obviously going to benefit other programs and stuff too.
Yeah, and then watching the game last night, they were talking about at the end of this season, they are going to tear down South Stadium now at KU to make their stadium a full bowl all the way around.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it felt like for the longest time they were playing in a high school stadium that was just oversized. Like it was. This is long overdue for Kansas football.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to a couple games down there, and I will give them credit for their stadium's very accessible.
Mm-hmm.
There's some places like Iowa City, you have to walk miles unless you live around there.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
I need to get to some of those stadiums. I have not ever been to the old Big 12 North stadiums other than Boulder.
Oh, really? Yeah,
So
I've been to.
I need to get to KU, Kansas State, and Iowa State.
Been to Ames. I've been to a lot of college, not games, but campuses.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa State, hands down, has the best tailgating. That atmosphere around there is incredible.
I'd have to go check that out sometime. Maybe maybe we'll just go to. Is that game in Iowa City next week? Or is that 2 weeks?
2 weeks. I think it's in Ames this year.
Yeah, okay.
I'll have to double check on that.
Yeah.
You sure you don't want to go to like Houston Christian?
Yeah.
No. We can kind of hop in to what we saw yesterday, and my biggest takeaway was not any football we saw.
Okay.
To me, my biggest takeaway yesterday was the new rule that if you go down with an injury after the ball is spotted, you are forced to take a timeout, and if you do not have any timeouts left, it is a 5-yard penalty. We needed this like 10 years ago.
Yeah, we needed this yesterday. Yeah. Proverbial.
Yeah.
I love it. Just thinking about the dynamic of how many games we've seen over the course. I mean, golly. I mean, like this started in like 2010 when when Chip Kelly and Oregon really started bringing that up-tempo stuff coming in, and people were just like, okay, well, what do we do to try to get a rest? And it's like, okay, fall down and start cramping, how different the games would have been over the last 14 seasons if you would take 2010 on and take this rule change and put it in place for them. Like how do seasons change? Like I mean, it's such a needed thing, and if just make it so that it takes the negative out. Like, yes, is there going to be a legitimate injury where it's like, oh shit, that's
well, we saw it in the Hawaii game.
Yeah,
they had a player go down, but he went down right away, and they weren't forced to time out. Like, and they brought that rule up too. It was just like, if you're hurt, you're hurt. We're not trying to go after people that are not hurt, but
right. So like, it's one of those things where it's just like, a legitimate injury that sucks that you're going to get penalized or you make your team use a timeout.
Yeah,
but because those timeouts can be precious, and you just don't know with the volatility of a football game. Like, like it could be where you need that timeout on the last drive of the game, and all of a sudden you can't, or you needed it for your offense.
Could have used those timeouts yesterday.
Yeah, so like, I just love the dynamic and the change because it brings back the philosophical gurus on offense that want to use up tempo and utilize that stuff. Like now you've got to be on your toes as a defense as long as
you don't make any substitutions.
Right. So that just means that you got to coach your dudes up and make them communicate. Like, I don't know.
Which that to me puts the offense in such a favorable situation. If you
have it can.
If you have a dual threat quarterback, go up tempo. Make sure come out in like a 4-wide set or something, so they have to have more DBs out there. Mm-hmm. And then if you got a good slot guy that can play like a Tyler Warren last year that could split out or come inside, play tight end, all of a sudden you're cooking with peanut oil, buddy. You can do some shit.
We're going to get into some of this too. Like, I'm going to kind of save my comments because I think that what you're saying, honestly, is going to play into one of my notes for Iowa State.
Okay.
So, you might have to remind me though, because I can get going on a tangent and completely forget.
Yeah, we both can get off guard there. Now we'll talk a little bit yesterday, what we saw, what we liked. But before we get there, because I'm gonna forget, and this thought just popped in my head, I gave you a piece of homework on Wednesday.
Oh yeah.
Have you decided on where you're going between Boise State and Tulane?
Well, I think you got to go Boise State.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly didn't even dive into their schedules or anything. It's just I know what Boise State is. Like, and I spent a good amount of time of kind of studying who Coach Danielson is at Boise State last year.
Yeah.
And I just I am a believer in Boise State. Like, I'm glad they're in a G5 conference. I'm glad that they don't have to be in with the big boys because you can really be a fan. It's almost like the whole AL NL thing to me.
Yeah.
Like, you can be a fan of somebody in the AL and somebody in the NL. Well, I think that Boise State is kind of like my team. Like, I like Coach Danielson, and I don't typically go after a lot of programs. It's like I am a fan of people.
Yeah, no, I understand.
That's why I like Georgia Tech. Right now, like if it was Paul Johnson, I'd be like, okay. I mean, even though I'm a flexbone guy, but I like Brent Key. I like what they're doing, and I like Haynes King. Same thing with Boise State. Coach Danielson's just kind of like he's also rooted in faith and stuff, and like that's a big thing for me. So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm rolling with them. Go Broncos. Go Blue. Go Big Blue.
And Tulane's gonna be good. And then they add Jake Retzlaff, but he didn't join them until August. So it's how much can he get down in a month before they're playing games? And they got to play like Ole Miss, Memphis, Navy, Navy might be my favorite. Like how you're talking about Boise State, that's how I feel about Navy because I'm a giant Blake Horvat fan.
Mm-hmm.
That dude's a dog. I love that
guy. See, now when we were texting Levi and all the guys about Navy with that little pick'em thing we did, I completely spaced Navy off in terms of a group of 5 option, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But Navy though, they're gonna be tough, but I guess going back to like Tulane, I wanted to make a quick point on Jake Retzlaff because when we were looking through quarterback stats when we were not recording the other day.
Yeah.
In the Big 12, I noticed a quarterback that was in that list near the bottom of the list in completion percentage, efficiency, and all this stuff. And I think Jake Retzlaff gets a lot of the credit for BYU's successful season last year, when really, if you look at their defense, that's really what obviously kept them in games because Retzlaff didn't have a very efficient season last year. I mean, compared to other Big 12 quarterbacks. So my opinion is that just like in a lot of other things, the quarterback gets a lot of credit for a successful season. I don't think BYU's success was really on the back of Jake Retzlaff. So while he's transferring to Tulane or did or whatever, I think we need to hold our horses a little bit on Tulane. Now, obviously, they have athletes down there. They're down in the South.
They got Fat Watts, baby.
Yeah, I mean, they are obviously a force to be reckoned with in the G5. Like they've established themselves as one of those programs the last few years, but I don't think Jake.
How long until Tulane goes to the Big 12?
I don't think it means somebody in the Big 12's got to move. Like I don't think that's happening personally. Like I just don't. I don't see it happening.
Big 12. I'm 100% going after Tulane though to get into that New Orleans market for recruiting because otherwise SEC and LSU is just going to keep eating that up. There's some dudes that come out of there.
Yeah, well, I think in the last round of realignment, like maybe they should have thought about that instead of taking Houston
Yeah.
when you already have Texas Tech, TCU, Baylor. I mean, maybe you're just throwing Houston a
Yeah.
bone as being a state entity and all that kind of thing, but like,
well, and Houston's the fourth largest market in the country.
I see. I understand that. But
Yeah.
Houston is not.
Is that a
drawing
college football market?
and that's not drawing. That's not drawing
Yeah.
That's not drawing the Houston market. Like Houston Cougars are not drawing the Houston market in college football. Like that's like Texas University and TCU and all those like bigger names are going to draw eyes from Houston more than Houston.
And I wouldn't even put TCU in there as much, just with them being a private school and everything. Their gap's not as
well. It's A&M in Texas. They're going to drive it, and then like somewhat Texas Tech, just from a niche group, and same thing with Baylor and TCU. So I mean, but Houston.
And now you got SMU's making moves,
right? Yeah. So
I
don't know. Yeah. Back to your original thought, though. I don't think Tulane's going to the Big 12 anytime soon. I think it would have been a natural fit considering had they done it before.
Hey, we did have conference realignment announced on Friday. It was a little under the radar. Dallas Baptist University going to the Pac-12 for baseball.
Okay, I don't dislike that.
They're usually a top 25 team, so that'll be someone to.
DBU baseball, man. Like, why not? I mean, Texas State's going, so.
Yeah. You got Oregon State out there. They're always in Omaha, so.
Yeah.
Be fun. All right, that's our baseball segment for the day. Well,
it's not going very good as a Minnesota Twins fan either. So
my Royals are doing great right now. Hottest team since the All-Star break. I do want to bring up one thing on baseball. I was watching a reel last night. Can you name the worst team in Major League Baseball since June 15th? The worst record in baseball since June 15th.
Well, it's probably not. I mean, the obvious guess is Colorado, but that's not going to be it.
No,
they're
worse than Colorado.
Could be San Francisco.
It is San Francisco.
Okay, I was going to say because they have dropped off since the Devers trade.
What happened on June 14th?
Must have been the Devers trade.
They acquired Devers.
Yeah, so okay.
I did not know about that. I was just watching this reel.
I'm so glad I knew that. I'm so glad that I haven't even paid attention to MLB a lot in the last few weeks, but it's like, okay, I just looked at like, wow, San Francisco sucks.
Yeah.
So,
but when we get closer to playoffs, we'll do our selections.
Oh yeah.
We do love us some Major League Baseball.
We love MLB.
But that's not what we're here to talk about. We had college football this weekend, baby.
Oh my gosh.
What'd you think? Yes, we all started out with the Kansas State, Iowa State. What's kind of some of your thoughts?
Let's just get into Farmageddon, man.
Yeah, baby.
Okay.
I love me some Farmageddon.
So first of all, I mean, you gotta open this with I mean, it was raining and the weather was bad. I mean, they talked about. I mean, you couldn't even see the paint lines on the field, So like, the weather played a factor in it, and so like, I kept thinking and sitting there.
Hold on, before you get too deep, I gotta stop you on your first of all, because I think we should start our first of all for Friday night. We're texting each other. You text me, dude. I'm watching 2024 Kansas State, Iowa State. I shot right back a picture of the snow game in 2023. We were both watching games from the years past.
Yeah,
I thought that was hilarious.
That was funny.
But okay, so you're going into the rain.
You're going into the rain. My gosh, so like pre-game they're talking about how it's like downpouring and then it's sunny and then it's downpouring and then it's sunny and it basically kind of was just not. I mean, it was wet the whole time during that game, and so like originally I was thinking, how are we really going to get a good gauge on Iowa State or Kansas State? It's already hard enough in week one.
Yeah.
Because you don't really, you kind of know, but you don't really know how good is each group.
Yeah.
And so with the weather, that also, gosh, it was sloppy and like there was fumbles all over the place in the first half. And,
Would you listen to the broadcasters blaming Dylan Edwards' fumble on the fireworks smoke?
Yeah, I heard that. I just didn't give it much
thought.
I'm glad you said that because Dylan Edwards getting hurt on that first punt return, that was a big factor in the game, I would guess. I mean, he was largely neutralized in the game a year ago, but and you brought up the fact that it was a snow game in 2023. Well, this game was played in the final week of the regular season, potentially. I mean, both teams, I mean, it was late in the year. It was cold as heck last year. So, like, this is the first time they get to play where the weather's supposed to be nicer and all that kind of stuff, which means 3 years in a row they've had
in that game,
not good weather.
Yeah. That snow game, Abu Sama ran for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, right. And so these guys, I don't know. Iowa State, I really like what Iowa State does on offense. They were committed to running the ball a little bit, and I am really, really, really impressed with their tight ends.
Yeah.
They have 4 tight ends that they can play and that are athletic and pass catchers.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm just gonna segue right into what you were talking about before about spread formations and then like personnelling it and all that stuff. So,
okay, so this is where you were going.
Yeah, like you can get into a spread formation and you could put 2 tight ends in each slot, and then you can go into a double tight formation and, like, you know what I'm saying? Like with those guys and how versatile they are, it makes me think of like Missouri when they had it was the Rucker dude, and it was like Chase Daniels years. Okay. They had those 2 big tight ends. Well, the tight ends, they had 2 really good athletic tight ends that they could put out in space. And so with Iowa State's physical style of football and then just like wanting to come run downhill a little bit more than what they did a year ago, because, I mean, gosh, they threw the ball almost more than everybody else in the Big 10 or Big 12 last year. But their tight ends, like, aside from the weather, I mean, they had some drops, but gosh, there was one play that I just, in my mind, I was like, it was the tight end was kind of coming out like on a 15-yard bench route or whatever, and the ball was thrown right to him, and the ball goes through his hands or whatever. And I'm like, man, the play design on that was fantastic and executed perfectly, and ends up being a incomplete pass.
Well, then how about the balls on Campbell on that 4th and 1 on the pop pass to the tight end?
Yeah, great play. As that was also a. Well, that wasn't the one we talked about in our text group with Colin.
No.
But similar play design. I think that was the Hawaii-Stanford game that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So, in any case, what a great game! It embodied like old school Midwest football.
Yeah,
you know,
defense.
Like, that was in Dublin. Man, you could just tell with the weather and all that stuff. Like, emphasis that the linebackers had on both sides. To commit to the run. And
who would have thought we'd be talking about defense with the Big 12?
I know, crazy. And I actually like the linebacker play of Kansas State a lot yesterday. I thought that their defense was, I mean, they were getting pressure with 4. I mean, I texted you guys, I was like, oh my gosh, if they get pressure with 4 like all game long, then Iowa State's in for a long game.
Yeah.
You know? But gosh, nobody could take care of the ball. Kansas State had turnover issues, and
what we were joking about yesterday too is both teams absolutely struggled to move the ball. Then Iowa State goes down and scores, and then Kansas State the following series would score in like 2 plays, or that last touchdown they had 1 play, just 80-yard bomb.
Yeah, that happened twice. So like when Iowa State would go score, Kansas State, like, who had like multiple 3-and-outs or maybe picked up a first down and had to punt. Every time that Iowa State scored, Kansas State would go down in a short amount of time on some big plays, almost as if they were like in a 2-minute offense. So it felt to me like they were trying to rebuttal quickly. And then once the game got tied again, it was like the philosophical play calling shifted back into like an NFL style, like, methodical, pick up first downs, chew clock, give your defense a break. And it's, all that kind of stuff in the NFL philosophies. But what I did not like about Kansas State offensively yesterday or on Saturday was the lack of utilizing Avery Johnson in the run game
Yes.
more. There were times where they utilized him in zone read concepts where he was free and he scored on one of them.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, and this kind of like where I'm going to reference one of my favorite guys ever, Marcus Mariota. Like the zone read game, Kansas State is going to have to use zone read, some sort of read scheme on a lot of it. It doesn't have to always just be straight zone read. It can be, you can be a trap read. It can be a wham. It can be, like you can veer, gosh, when Colin Klein was the quarterback at Kansas State, they used outside veer all the time with, or inverted veer, all the time. And like, I just think Avery Johnson's skill set plays more in the run game. Because I wasn't very impressed with him in the passing game. Like he has not improved like a ton yet.
What Iowa State was doing with Rocco Beck is what Kansas State needs to do with Avery Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Like that near side option on 3rd and 1.
Yeah.
So,
and I know that Kansas State has it in the playbook because actually bringing back up the game that I was watching from a year ago, Kansas State's first play from scrimmage in 2024 was a fumble on a near side option, on a short side option. So, and it was pitched behind Dylan Edwards. So
Dylan Edwards has opened up the last 2 Farmageddon games with fumbles.
That's true. That's crazy. Good catch there. Wild. Anyway, but I think moving forward, like we said in a previous episode, that Kansas State losing this game, because me and you both are leaning Iowa State in this.
Yeah.
In this game, and that was not just against the spread. I think we were both kind of liking our odds on the money line with Iowa State winning outright. I think that Kansas State now has that sense of urgency. They're going to have to, because you can't drop another game in the Big 12, and you're going to play. We might have to pull up their schedule.
Yeah.
Because.
Well, you do that. Well, you pull up their schedule. I'll talk about the big thing I texted you about is this game. Like everyone talked about how big it was versus the Big 12. You have the early heads up. Well, Kansas State's now essentially 2 games back in the Big 12 because if it's Iowa State has tiebreakers now.
Right.
So you're talking about you lost this game, conference game, and now and Iowa State's a good team. It's not like, oh crap, we lost to Oklahoma State. Well, we can catch Oklahoma State on a game.
Right. Okay. So they do play next week. They have North Dakota Army at Arizona. Like you should get through those. Then you're off. Then you have UCF. October 4th is probably your next hairy game because it's at Baylor.
Yeah.
And Dave Aranda and that defense, like it doesn't get like you're talking about Iowa State's tough style, but like Baylor's going to bring good defense there. So you're going to have to find a way to score points at Baylor. Then you kind of change philosophies a little bit, and then you're going to the following week you host TCU, who's going to be very good on offense with quarterback Josh Hoover at the helm there. So then you get a bye week. Then you have at Kansas, Texas Tech, bye week.
Kansas boys are looking good. I don't know if it was Fresno State being bad or Kansas looking good, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, and we're going to go through our Big 12 predictions, I think, here too. So like we can get into a little bit more of this after that, but like I do not see Kansas State winning out and then like to put themselves in position to be in the Big 12. I honestly think that was an elimination game.
Yeah. I believe it too.
So,
and we're talking about it being in week 0 in a foreign country. Bring those back here.
Yeah. I mean, they could still have a great year, 10 wins is still on the I mean, they could win out. They could win out. Do I think they're going to win out? No. But like I said, if you start having a sense of urgency and be like, okay, I'm not going to try to we're not going to try to just protect Avery Johnson and his season. Like if we're going to try to reach our goals that we thought we're capable of, that's leaning on Avery Johnson's legs as well. Almost like Haynes King does at Georgia Tech, because they're in the same boat. They're two basically similar programs, in my opinion, philosophically on offense. They don't operate the same way, but I think with who they have at quarterback, they both should. And they should.
South Carolina's in that same group.
Yeah.
With Stellars.
Yeah.
The next game, I know you didn't get to see much of it. You had other stuff going on. Idaho State, UNLV, quite possibly could have been the best game of the day after everyone had to download the Mountain West app to watch it. But them boys from Pocatello brought it to UNLV, and UNLV was able to squeak by for a 38-31 win. But Dan Mullen was shitting himself because Idaho State was moving the ball.
Well, didn't Idaho State push Oregon a year ago?
Yeah.
I mean,
and they lost half their team to the transfer portal.
Right, but I mean, gosh dang, those guys up in Idaho, they have a program rolling where they can push out some good quality product. Trust
me. Look at the flag. I've seen plenty of Idaho State in Idaho.
Yeah.
I got to figure out that whole pointing thing and moving around with this camera right now.
Yeah, gotta go the opposite way.
But there's a Montana flag above me. I've seen a lot of Idaho State, and they will freaking murder you on slants. And that's what they did to UNLV. But Dan Mullen got the win. UNLV wins. Played that game in Allegiant Stadium. Pretty cool for Idaho State guys getting to play in an NFL stadium.
Sure.
It's good on them. Then we had the Kansas-Fresno State game. And I know we got to watch a lot of that. Jalen Daniels was impressive. Good to see him back. Look what he did at the end of last year when he came back for Kansas and beat Colorado and got a couple other big wins. But
they had massive wins at the end of the year last year.
What was most impressive about Kansas to me was the way their defense was flying to the ball. Like screen passes, end arounds, quick slants like we just talked about that. I was like, Kansas boys were playing downhill and getting after it, and I really like that.
I think that something that people have overlooked on this year is they're just discrediting Kansas's chances in the Big 12 because of a year ago. And people forget to realize the storylines from a year ago where Kansas was in a ton of games early and just did not have the ball bounce their way.
And they didn't have Jalen Daniels. So like they were close in games and it was just lost. I mean, I think they started 1-5.
Yeah. Or something like that a year ago, and then like ended on beating all these top teams in the conference. And it's like, geez, what could have been? So you keep Jalen Daniels healthy and Kansas stays healthy and things start to go the right way. And I believe in things that life operates in balance. So like the egregious bounces that didn't go their way a year ago, start to balance that out with this year. And you start thinking Kansas can be a little bit one of those teams knocking on the door at the end of the season for a Big 12 title.
And then the final game of the day was Stanford, Hawaii. And I got to say, I know I'm wearing the Vandy shirt, but Diego Pavia, move over because there is a new short king in charge, baby. Micah Alejado. That dude's a gamer.
Dude's a gamer. And got hurt in the game and just willed his team to a win over Stanford. I mean,
reminded me of when you remember Maction, like 2004, having to carry like Roethlisberger down the field because he had no use of his leg.
Yeah.
Like that was Micah yesterday. Just redshirt freshman picking apart Stanford, which brings us to what you were saying about Stanford on Wednesday. Is Stanford going to win a game this year?
Seeing what they put on the field, I think that, I mean, you obviously have to circle that San Jose State game as the potential first win, because I don't think, they're not getting any favors between the Hawaii game and that game.
Yeah.
And I believe that's game 4. And so I'm sticking by my thing. I said if they lose to Hawaii week 1 or week 0, that Stanford may go 0-12.
And I said they would beat Virginia.
Yes, you did. But I will say that it looks like they are trying to recommit themselves to running the football, which is what Stanford was.
Yep.
5, 6, 7,
and that little running back they had, he was shifty. He was nice.
Micah Ford.
Yep.
He was. I think. He eclipsed 100 yards on his 25th carry, I think, or something like that, or maybe he had a little more than that. They made mention of that, but I did like the commitment from Stanford to just continue to try and run the football.
Yeah.
Now, transfer quarterback Goldbranson from Oregon State, I think he'll be serviceable, but they're going to have to work on protecting him better, because if Hawaii's getting after the quarterback, that means a lot of conference foes in the ACC are probably going to get after the quarterback. So going to have to find creative ways to be able to keep him standing upright, because he was not very efficient on the run and outside the pocket yesterday.
They got to find receivers that can get separation.
Yeah. Yep. Gone are the days where their huge tight ends can just bail them out, play after play after play.
Alec Ayamanor, or however the heck you say his last name, that torched Colorado, he's in the NFL now, so you can't just throw up a hope and a prayer.
Yep. So, but it was a good game. Obviously there's some storylines there, because Hawaii's kicker taught himself how to kick on YouTube.
Yeah.
And ended up making the team by way of
junior college.
Yeah, junior college and all that kind of stuff. So he's got himself into Hawaii and made that game-winning kick. And I don't have any details on him as much as so to our listeners, check out the Hawaii kicker story.
Yeah.
It's worth reading.
From Japan, didn't speak a lick of English, and ends up at Hawaii and
decided he wants to be a kicker.
Yeah.
So,
and it's kind of funny because he's tall,
huge.
You don't see many tall kickers.
No, and you don't see. Not to be stereotypical, but you don't typically see a lot of tall Asians.
Yeah. Outside of Yao Ming.
Well, yeah. So good job naming the anomaly.
The anomaly, yeah. Correct.
So
that was good. So those were our games yesterday. We won't dive too much into what's coming up this week. We'll have another episode for that. But we kind of wanted to jump into, we're going to do the Power 4 conferences, and tonight we are going to do Big 12 SEC, and Wednesday will be Big 10 SEC. Tonight's Big 12 SEC, and then we're going to do Big 10 ACC. So I didn't want to put the two powers together, because to me they're going to go on a little bit longer than ACC and Big 12.
Well, geez, you could make a ginormous episode out of the Big 12 alone.
Yeah.
Remember the old ACC Wheel of Destiny?
Yeah. Yeah.
Put that into the Big 12 this year, because that's what's going on.
I'm so excited for the Big 12, and we got to see an early view of the Big 12, getting to see Kansas State, Iowa State. That doesn't affect my opinion. We'll jump into Big 12. I'm still riding Utah winning the Big 12. Who they're going to play is where I'm torn at, and this is what we were discussing before the show. Arizona State's going to be there. Iowa State's going to be there. Baylor's going to be there. The one common thread in all this is they all have elite quarterbacks. And who's just going to play the best? And could it be what we saw yesterday? Who's going to is there going to be defense in the Big 12 this year?
Well, like I said, we've already mentioned Baylor. John. Yeah. Dave Aranda is going to bring a good defensive group with Baylor, and they always seem to play one of those. They usually seem to have a better defense amongst conference opponents anyway. The jury is still out on Texas Tech. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Iowa State brings good defense. I think Kansas State's defense, I think Colin actually said at one point, he's like, man, Kansas State's got a good defense, so, like, give him a little shout-out too.
Yeah.
But in any case, yeah, I mean, typically we've seen a ton of Big 12 40 to 45, 42 games in the recent past, and I think a lot of that is hinging on, like, Oklahoma games in the recent memory, like when they were a part of the conference, they were a large part of the high scoring,
I mean,
a ton of points games.
How many times, like, if you look at all those, like, how we're going to talk about memorable games coming up at the end of the show. Look at all those memorable games from the Big 12. It was Oklahoma, Texas Tech in the 60s. It was Texas, Oklahoma 50-48, or the Oklahoma West Virginia game was like 50-49. Like, Oklahoma was around a lot of those games.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's just kind of cyclical, college football I think is starting to realize that, I mean, a lot of those inflated scores used to be on the offensive side of the ball with the tempos and all that kind of stuff and trying to score quick and all that, and then now people are starting to be like, okay, well, there's a potential for 3 extra games in a playoff.
Yeah.
We got to keep personnel healthy. And I think offenses are less likely to want to run 85 to 90 plays, and they'd rather sit around that 60 play mark. And so naturally less offensive plays.
Especially with roster limits now.
Yes. Yep. Great point. So
I think I ended up going with Utah versus Iowa State and Utah winning it. Who was your Big 12 championship game and winner?
Man, I'm still I'm not very confident when I say this. I mean, I like Utah, but the more I buckle down and kind of dive into a little bit of the teams and the schools and play, I'm kind of sitting on Baylor a little bit.
Yeah.
I really like Sawyer Robertson. I don't think the dude gets enough recognition for how good he is.
Yeah.
And ultimately, they won. I think they were 9-4 a year ago, and they lost an egregious game at versus Colorado.
Yeah.
So they were just an inch away from winning that 10th game. And then you bring pieces back from that squad, everybody wants to take those hot names and be like, run with Kansas State, run with the new Texas Tech group that's
Arizona State.
Gosh, it's still hard for me to think of that sometimes. Being a part of it. But I like Baylor right now. But like I said in the previous episode, I'm a tad bit contrarian. I think that's kind of my fan DraftKings philosophy though too, probably coming out. So I'm going with Baylor to win the Big 12 right now, but I'm also I could easily change my pick in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Hands down, the Big 12 is the best quarterback league in college, and of the Power Four. That group they have there is
ultimately you are usually selecting your winners based on quarterback play.
Yeah.
As Husker fans, we have been on the backside of that for so long. Just having if we had a good quarterback, and now we finally do. So,
Well, and my philosophy on Utah, it in a roundabout way comes back to the quarterback, because my philosophy on Utah is their defense, Kyle Whittingham, and those big games being in Salt Lake City.
Yep.
Their defense struggled last year because their offense could not stay on the field because they didn't have a quarterback. So in my roundabout way, we don't know what Dan Pierre is going to be. Obviously, he's been solid at New Mexico, but he's stepping up to the Big 12 now. Mm-hmm. And his biggest thing, keep the offense on the field enough to the defense can get a breath,
Sure.
I mean, sometimes your best defense is a good offense.
And we mentioned a little bit, like with Kansas, how gosh, they were in such close games.
Yeah.
Utah was in a lot of close games,
Yep.
but they were also riddled with injuries last year, and they stayed in close games. So
Yeah.
I mean, Utah's has kind of become the favorite of the conference.
Yeah.
And how does the offense change? Because it is going to go more RPO style.
Yeah.
With Devin Dampier as the quarterback. I can see Utah winning. I'm going to say I didn't tell you who I thought Baylor beat, so I'm just going to say it's Baylor over Utah.
Okay.
Because I do like Utah, but right there, waiting in the wings, like waiting for a potential upset, like the Iowa State's right there.
Yeah.
I like Iowa State, and I like
You're
TCU.
big on Josh Hoover at TCU.
I like TCU as well. And nobody's talking about them.
Yeah.
So usually when people aren't talking about you, look at Arizona State, so I do not like Arizona State this year I don't like seeing
as the Big 12.
I do not see them repeating in the being conference champions. No.
I am going to dark horse Kansas as long as Jalen Daniels is healthy.
Okay, I like that.
If he's healthy, Kansas is dangerous.
And it just goes back to us talking about how good Big 12 football is going to be to watch. The storylines week in and week out. It's literally, it is literally that's why we play the games, right?
Yeah.
Every game in the Big 12 is going to matter this year. Every single one.
So we'll go from the best conference in college football to the most boring conference in college football with the SEC.
Yep. It just matters less.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. To me, I think we're on the same page with our SEC pick. So we'll get to that. A couple of the teams that will contend, we think. Florida, obviously with DJ Lagway, good defense. Still don't trust their coach. Georgia, did they fix the offensive line? LSU, as long as Brian Kelly's the coach there, I will not give him any love. Missouri has the schedule. Oklahoma is my dark horse. I'm not going to go there. And then Texas has all the love right now, but as Joel Klatt alluded to, they are replacing a shitload on the offense and defensive lines. I know it's not a big deal when you're recruiting 5 stars every year, so you can just plug them in. But they still haven't played. Or if they've played minimal. I know Texas does have a D tackle back that's going to be a stud, but I'm just not buying into Texas. Could just be because we're from Nebraska and we hate Texas, but
I don't buy. I'm not a buyer of Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah.
Yet. He falls into the same category. Look at he didn't get it done at Washington. He didn't get it done at USC. He has all the resources in the world at Texas. And yet he's going to find a way to not get it done. In my opinion, that's a pretty harsh statement, but I put him in the same category as James Franklin. Don't crown him until he proves that he can win the big games. So I don't know. They didn't win the SEC a year ago.
Yeah.
And they lost to Georgia twice.
Yeah.
So
and they got to go to Georgia this year.
Right. And I'm not I told you before we started the show that I was kind of like I can see Georgia getting it done. But I'm still I'm unsure about Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah.
He's a big hang up for me. I just know that Kirby Smart's going to put a really good product out. To me, it's going to hinge on Gunnar Stockton. How well can he throw the ball downfield? We all know he can run.
Yeah. You've talked me into Auburn, where I'm kind of liking what Auburn's got this year.
Yeah, another one of those teams that nobody's talking about.
Yeah.
But Jackson Arnold, man, they're not going to contend in the SEC. but I like the improvement. Like I think they could get to 8 wins.
And their receiving core is deep.
Yeah, like they got a lot of weapons. Offensively, they're going to be fantastic. Offensively, you just never know because you have a lot of really good offenses in the SEC. Yeah. Now we talked about Big 12 and no defenses. I think that's more like the SEC now because you're starting to see them adopt like this SEC. I mean, look at Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. And all that. Like you're going to see a lot of games that are 48-41.
Heupel's the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to see these 10-6s like you used to see. Or what was it? The national
9-6 Alabama
9-6 Alabama LSU. That's not happening anymore in the SEC.
Yeah.
So week in and week out, you're going to see a lot of points put up in that conference. I think personally.
Yeah. So we had the same pick for the conference champion, didn't we?
Yeah, Alabama. I was hoping I would kind of be the lone wolf on this amongst our friends and all that, but we both are liking. It's not surprising for you.
Yeah.
Because you are you're a Kalen DeBoer apologist.
Yeah.
You could move in with him and you'd be happy, I would guess.
It's like this. Matt Rule could go win a national title at Nebraska, and I'll still be the guy that was, we should have went with Kalen DeBoer when we were looking for a new coach.
Right. And I was kind of on that. I was upset that Kalen DeBoer went to Alabama initially because I was like, golly, I was ready for Alabama to take a step back.
Yeah.
And now here I am in 2025. I'm going to call it right now. I'm picking Alabama to win the national title. And I think that you're on the same page. So we're not just saying conference.
No,
we're not just saying the SEC.
Alabama to win it.
I think Alabama's winning the national title. That's my pick. I'm penciling it in right now.
Alabama.
10:30 at night, August 24th.
But what was both of our main reason for picking Alabama? Because it wasn't quarterback and it wasn't DeBoer.
Well, I think it's the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, Grubb.
It's Ryan Grubb being back with Kalen DeBoer because they are an unstoppable force offensively. And like I said, we've said this before, Jalen Milroe was kind of like the whole, just the implant there to see if they could make it work. And then they had to have some adaptation and all that stuff because really it just never felt comfortable at all last year. I mean, even think about the defensive back. I can't remember who it was. That was like the team chemistry and the energy that they had in the middle of the year where dudes were acting in certain ways unprofessional, disrespectful ways that Nick Saban you'd never seen this happen at Alabama. No. And so I think some of that starts to change in year 2 for DeBoer.
Well, and DeBoer even came out and said those guys aren't on his team anymore.
Right.
The bad apples are gone. They've either transferred out, graduated, but this is his team now.
Yep, I agree. And DeBoer's kind of like one of those he wins everywhere he goes.
Started at Sioux Falls.
Yep, and then Fresno, and then Washington, and then I mean, he had Washington as a real threat in year 2.
Yeah.
So with the resources Bama has and the fans you're fresh off of a Nick Saban era, so you haven't had this downtime like Nebraska has had. It's still fresh in recruits' minds and all that kind of stuff. Bama is still king, and I think they're going to show that they still are.
Yeah. I think that's
even though really we don't want that to happen.
No, I'm sick of Alabama, but that's my champion pick. But for the SEC, I took Alabama, and I took them beating Georgia because I do think Georgia gets the O-line figured out. And I think Kirby Smart goes back to his bread and butter that got him so much success. Run the damn ball, Kirby.
Yeah. Yeah. So Georgia's going to assert itself as a physical team again this year, I think. So, I mean, you don't have the quarterback that can just sling it downfield like he's not going to carve you up. So you got to be finding ways to move the ball. And Georgia's going to have a plethora of athletes to work with, obviously. So.
And then my dark horse was Oklahoma, which we've already went into. My love for John Mateer.
Yeah. So Oklahoma it's going to come down to it's going to come down to schedule, which is brutal. Yeah. And we debated that in the previous episode, so we don't need to rehash that. But I did want to say one thing. If we have our way and Klatt has his way, we are probably slated for an Alabama Clemson national title. Do we really want to see that again?
No.
I don't want to go back to the Clemson Alabama rivalry.
No, I don't either.
So just thought I might throw that out there as a little buzzkill.
If Clemson wins it, does Dabo retire?
No way. He's too young.
No.
Too young.
I know, but with all the how much he hates NIL and rev share and everything going on,
he's not going to pull a Tom Osborne. No way. I mean, unless he decides he wants to have a seat at the House of Representatives.
Yeah, correct. Hey, Tuberville did it too.
Yeah, good grief.
That'll bring us we'll wrap this show up with this. We had a viewer email us.
Thanks for the email and being a true fan.
Yes. He had 2 questions, and I'm really excited to answer the first one. The second one we could do a whole episode on. But his first question was, do we still recognize Michigan's national title? And I am 1,000% yes, because even though that happened, the players were the ones out there executing the plays, moving the ball, making the tackles. And it brings me to people like, well, yeah, because they knew the plays. Well, in 1997, when Nebraska beat Tennessee, their offensive line was coming out and telling Tennessee, hey, we're running gap here, we're running outside here, we're running this ball right up your throat, and they ran it down their throat for 42 points and absolutely kicked Peyton Manning's ass. Yeah. And to me, it does not matter what kind of coaching you have if you don't have the athletes to execute the game plan or not the game plan, but the plays and make the tackles, break a tackle if you got the ball. I still recognize their title.
Yeah, and I agree with you, actually. I am not really one of those guys that says that it illegitimizes their national title by any means. It's not like they took Coastal Carolina's roster and turned them into a national title. It wasn't that kind of help. You know, it's not like they were all on roids and you know what I mean? So I think that they're still a legitimate national title holder. And I'm assuming, and it just came to me, I am on the assumption that maybe with you and who your alma mater is in high school, that maybe that played a part in your opinion. I mean, we're not going to go in depth there, but
the thought crossed my mind.
But I just wanted to say, for those of you that know Cody and know where he's from, you'll understand that little jab there.
Yeah. Just turn that knife a little more, why don't you? Oh, I have a shirt.
I had to take the opportunity while we're on a podcast, to get a little shot in there.
I mean, obviously, you don't see me wearing their hat today.
No. So
just give me my boy Harry Caskey out at the Air Force.
Yeah.
No, and then his second question, and this is the one that we could go on for days. He wanted to know our top 5 most memorable college football games that we watched or witnessed. And
what a great question.
Yeah.
Honestly.
That was Adam, right? Adam McCoy?
Alex McCoy.
McCoy, yeah.
Yep. So,
there's so many games that could have gone here. And so I originally had sent you a list. I'm pulling it up now.
Do we want to structure this where you go with one and then I go with one?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Because I'm kind of
I don't think we
want to
have
get
any
away from the
overlap.
cliche ones.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of where I thought we were. Like I was
Like,
I didn't go with any cliche.
yeah, and so originally the original list I had sent you was completely cliche. Texas USC Rose Bowl, kick six with Alabama Auburn, the Crabtree catch for Texas Tech against Texas, Miami Ohio State. Was it pass interference? Was it not? And then Oklahoma Boise State. So I'm going to throw those 5 out because that's
Those are
the
obvious.
cliche games.
You know, there's something
So
like
we can go back and forth. I think we're going to have. I know one of them we're going to have is going to be the same.
Okay.
Because
Is that because I told you before?
It's one of the
show?
ones you had texted me, but it's also one of the games that me and you might have been the only ones awake in the Midwest that were still watching it.
Okay, I know where you're
So
going.
that should give away who we're talking about.
We should probably just open with that one.
Yeah, we'll open with that one. Washington State UCLA.
2019.
Was one of my. That's one of my most memorable. Washington State jumps out to this giant lead.
Yep.
Then old Dorian Thompson Robinson brings UCLA back, and
DTR.
Yeah,
gosh. Chip Kelly was the coach at UCLA. You know, I had a vested interest in watching that game anyway, from him being an Oregon guy and all that kind of stuff. So I was
a big Max Borghi fan, who was the running back for Washington State that year.
Sure, yeah, and I think Washington State's quarterback he threw for a NCAA record 9 touchdowns in that game and lost.
So
the final score of that game was 67-63, and UCLA was down by 32 at one point.
Yeah.
32 points. They scored 40 in the second half. Well,
I want to say UCLA had 3 special teams touchdowns in that game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, these were like quick scores. I mean, just everything that Washington State couldn't have happened at the exact time they shouldn't have had to happen. You know, it's just crazy. It's a crazy game. I will go back and watch the highlights of that from time to time, just because the improbable nature. Man.
And this is why you stay up for Pac-12 After Dark.
Yes. And I hope it gets back that way, you know, with these new additions in the new Pac-12, you know, maybe Texas State and Oregon State may have a game like that.
Yeah.
In 2026.
There we go. Can't wait.
So that's our overlap game.
Yeah, then we'll probably end up having a couple more, but my next game was 2007 Kansas, Missouri, when these two were number 2 versus number 3. Yeah,
wild times at that point in our life. Who would have ever thought those two programs would ever be number 2 versus number 3?
It was just a back and forth game, and I remember just the stakes that were on it, and then neither of them ended up going to the national title.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Well, that was that crazy. That's the reference to 2007. Stupid year. That was also, I mean, not stupid in a crazy awesome way.
Yeah.
You know.
So that's my number 2.
Who did Missouri play? Who did Missouri end up playing in a bowl game that year?
I don't remember the bowl game. They lost to Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship, and that's what knocked them out.
All right. Well, Kansas played Virginia Tech in the equivalent of a New Year's Six bowl or whatever, you know, like the Fiesta Bowl or something. And they beat Virginia Tech, I believe.
Yeah. So Todd Reesing.
Yeah, I don't recall who Missouri played it that year in a bowl.
I'll look it up while you're giving your team.
Okay. Well,
you're number 2.
I'm not going to give these in any order because to me, there's so many great games. And it was hard picking 5 or just 5. But I'm going to start with Utah over Alabama in the Sugar Bowl in 2008. That was Utah wasn't in the Pac-12 at the time. You know, they were coming out of the Mountain West. And it was just it was the most recent, we already had Boise State beat Oklahoma. But Utah coming out of the Mountain West and beating Nick Saban's Alabama team that was like pretty close to winning the SEC, because obviously the Florida Gators won the title that year. But Utah jumped out to like a 21-0 lead. I remember watching this at my buddy Tim's house and just us freaking out. Like, Utah goes up 21-0. It's like, there's no way they can lose this. Well, then they kind of hit a dead spell toward the middle of the game. I think Mike Asiata was the running back, and Brian Johnson, I think, was the quarterback for Utah. I don't know. It was just one of those things. I was like, this is crazy, because young enough to not realize, or you're young enough to realize that like the Mountain West can actually play, and you had it twice in 2 years. Essentially, with the 2006 Boise State group. So, Utah ended up winning that game 31-17, and that's just forever going to be ingrained in my mind, like, because it's before Utah is what they are today, being a Power 5 group. They were a Power 4 group. They were a G5 at the time. So,
yep. So, my next game, because I understand where you're coming from, it's hard to rank them. My next game has some meaning to it, because had this game gone a different way, we would not have got the USC-Texas Rose Bowl game. And that is the 2005 Notre Dame-USC Bush push. When was it legal, was it not? But USC wins the game on a quarterback sneak from Matt Leinart as Reggie Bush shoves him into the end zone.
Yeah.
Whistle probably could have been blown dead, but USC gets the touchdown to win 34-31.
What a wild one. That's a great selection, because kids these days, with the rules that you can push now, like, aren't going to, like, as time goes on, without, like, if you see those highlights of that game, Notre Dame USC, you're not going to understand unless somebody gives you context first that was an illegal procedure. Essentially, you could not utilize pushing your teammate into the end zone. So like, crazy. And I love the fact that you preceded that with who, like, I want to know, who would we have gotten, Texas versus who, if USC doesn't make it into the BCS then?
Would that have been Ohio State?
I don't know. I mean, that makes me want to go back and look, because I can't recall who was. I mean, that's such an iconic Rose Bowl too.
Yeah.
Like, who was even number 3 at the time in the BCS?
Yeah. Hey, real quick, Missouri beat Arkansas in the Cotton Bowl.
Oh, okay.
35-7.
I am searching the final BCS rankings in 2005. So it says Penn State was 10-1.
Really?
Yep. So
Penn State did not cross my mind for 2005.
No, but was that
because Nebraska played Penn State in a home and home around that time?
Yeah, that was 02-03.
Okay.
Because Larry Johnson just made us freaking his little bitch.
Yeah.
In Happy Valley.
Yeah.
That really, really bad 2002 Nebraska group that was literally the most unfathomable thing ever at that time, which, let's just keep me on task here. So,
yeah. What was your next game?
Well, we're talking Nebraska, so I guess that segues right into one game that I do have for Nebraska on here. Nebraska, Colorado, 2008. Bo Pelini's inaugural season. We were just coming off a horrible year of 2007. It's the Alex Henry field goal, school record at the time, 57 yards. And then the ensuing possession where Ndamukong Suh bats the ball down from freaking Cody Hawkins, quarterback from Colorado.
Idaho State head football coach.
Okay. Did not know that. And then Suh returns it for a touchdown while also stiff-arming Cody Hawkins into Tom Osborne Field permanently. I mean,
Yeah.
legend has it that his like imprint is still there at the 10-yard line.
Well, his soul certainly is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, imprinted almost as I mean, just like stained glass, just just there permanently. Like, I mean, his soul is just never. I mean, he's never going to have his full soul back. Memorial Stadium kept his soul.
We talked about Rob Zadika last week, and I was talking to him about the list and the games. And as far as loudest he's ever heard Memorial Stadium, he puts that Nebraska-Colorado game when Henry makes the field goal up against the 92 Nebraska-Colorado Halloween game. Is the loudest. Okay. Colorado's coming in on this huge long win streak, and Nebraska takes them out.
Okay, so I'm glad you said something about it being loud because in 2008, obviously I was a college kid.
Yeah.
And like the whole like student ID thing, you get into the student section for free, right? So like everybody's sharing student IDs. I was not a college kid at the university, so I did not have a student ID for them, but passing around buddies that weren't going, they didn't ever have a way to check that it was verified. So anyway, I took my dad to that game. And we sat in South Stadium in the student section the whole time. So like my 50-plus-year-old dad at the time, standing there, all 6'4" of him, and everybody's standing on top of the benches, as they're walking.
Yeah.
They're on the benches, and that kick goes through. I mean, everybody's high-fiving and celebrating, whatever. We take the lead. But it was the ensuing pick six from Sue. Yeah. When I witnessed a guy fall down 6 to 7 stairs in celebration because the whole student section's going nuts, and I'm thinking about, I'm actually sitting there kind of thinking, I'm like, oh, I hope nobody runs into my dad because he's not as agile as we all were as students, so, but yeah, one of the most memorable things I've ever been a part of regarding Husker football.
It's also like what you just said is really memorable to me in a way of those were games where you had to be there. It's not like now where everyone's living their games through their cell phone. So you're seeing this incredible play, and as the person's running into the end zone, it's just everyone, they got their phones held up like this. They're not enjoying the moment. They're not like
right. That's a great point.
Yeah, I miss that.
So in 2008, I didn't have a smartphone until roughly around, like 2011, 2010, I think was the first time I ever had a smartphone. So like I was still utilizing a flip phone of sorts in 2008, but what a great point, because you're sitting there conversing with your friends about the game and stuff, and you're not even able to look at scores from around the country, while you're watching a game. So like
the only thing is what the ribbon board is showing.
Right. I mean, you're completely entrenched into what's going on, and it makes me feel bad or sad maybe that kids these days are never going to have that like locked in feeling as much as we were able to enjoy growing up.
Yeah. So I'll jump to the next game on my list. It was a foggy night in Corvallis, Oregon. Thursday night, the number one team in the country, led by Pete Carroll, comes into Corvallis, and let me introduce you to the 5'8" legend Jaquiz Rogers, eating up that that USC defense as Mike Riley and Oregon State upsets the number one USC Trojans, and it was foggy. Like the only cameras they could use were the on the field cameras. They couldn't use the up high skybox wide camera because you couldn't see the players.
Right. If I recall correctly, that was the first time I'd ever seen, and like I've said before, I'm an X's and O's guy.
Yeah.
They utilized so many times a slot receiver in motion to use to kick out a defensive end.
Yeah.
Basically it's basically a trap block, but on the end, essentially. And then they run right underneath him. And just over and over and over. And I had never seen anything like that from a positional player that's out in space coming in jet motion across and just stymieing a defensive end of that caliber, especially if it was something like Frosty Rucker or somebody like that for USC, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't recall exactly who it was, but like, I remember exactly where I was during that game. What a great call for a great selection by you on that one.
Yeah. What was your next one?
Okay, so my next one has more to do with my boy Sean McDonough and a player from North Carolina at the time, Hakeem Nicks. So 2008, Meineke Car Care Bowl against a West Virginia group that still saw Pat White as its quarterback.
Yep.
What an unbelievable game. Like I can't really tell you as much. I mean, Hakeem Nicks had like, I think it was Chris Spielman was the color guy or the comment, like the guy with Sean McDonough.
Yeah.
I don't even know if does he still do games. Anyway, Hakeem Nicks had like 200 and some yards receiving on like 10 receptions, but he made acrobatic, like he made a catch behind his back, like he caught it behind his back or caught it with one hand and like realized like as he was running the opposite way from away from the hand that caught it, he was going to try to like get it to his other hand through his legs, but then couldn't, so had to like almost do it like a basketball, like around the waist type thing.
Yeah.
As he's running a slant, like not a slant, but a drag, you know, like, and it was just, I mean, the calls, like he had such a huge game, you know, like breaking tackles and just making these crazy catches. Like I wish we probably could eventually in future episodes utilize a way to bring this video up.
Yeah.
You know, but man, Hakeem Nicks, like I watch that one a lot too, and Carolina football at the time was largely just a afterthought, like horrible football program.
Yeah.
You know, and they winning 8 games for them was phenomenal, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to see if I can find that.
Yeah, well, you're doing that. I'll give my final game. There's going to be a lot of honorable mentions I'll throw out there without context, but you bring up Sean McDonough's call, and I raise you Brent Musburger, Frost over the middle, diving. It's Davison on the reflection. The Missouri-Nebraska 97 game.
Yeah.
When Shevin Wiggins kicks it up, freshman Matt Davison dives across the back of the end zone, catches it for Nebraska to beat Missouri. That actually tied the game, but Nebraska goes on to win the game against Missouri.
Yeah.
And it's just Brent Musburger burned into my brain. I was 7 years old, and that, you know, Nebraska goes on to win the national title. And
yeah. So that's one of the greatest calls of all time.
Yeah.
I think I recall where I was. I was actually in 97, I was only 9 years old. So like, I wasn't like crazy involved in being a fan of college football, you know, like I remember like sitting down and going with my parents and stuff to other people's houses and like watching games, but this was not one of them. I was actually at a friend's house and their parents were watching the game. And me and my buddy, we were like playing like ping pong or something downstairs. Yeah. And so like, I just remember like looking up at the TV and seeing that happen and like without really paying attention. And I almost feel stupid for saying that because like everybody's like, oh, I remember that as a kid. And I'm sitting there playing a meaningless game of ping pong and barely witnessed one of the craziest, maybe the craziest moment in Husker history.
My parents were at the game, so I was at a aunt's house because that was at Missouri. So I was at an aunt's house who did not give a shit about sports or anything. So I am laying on the floor down in her den, and just imagine like every old folks flowery couch with the plastic on it, the old big square TVs on the plastic watching that game.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
losing my mind as a 7-year-old.
Man, I don't want to like bust up our episode, but I really want to click this button called present. But I'm going to wait for another time. Like in our next episode, after we mess with this, I'll bring that highlight of Hakeem Nicks because it's such a crazy freaking. I have the video right here in another window.
Yeah.
We'll have to revisit that on Thursday's episode.
I might mess around in Editor and see if I can put that video up over our faces when you're talking about it.
Yeah. We can talk about it later. Okay.
What is your final game?
My last one. I gotta quit freaking bumping this table. Actually, I could say this. I could say it twice. I could use two and put it in my top spot because it involves the same group, but it was 2 years apart, I believe. Maybe just 1 year apart. But Dennis Dixon, Oregon, beats USC in Autzen in 2007.
Okay.
Jonathan Stewart was the tailback at the time. Freaking legendary running back for Oregon. Great pro for the Carolina Panthers, I believe.
Yep.
And they won that game 24-17. That was the reason why that's memorable is because that was kind of the year that solidified me as an Oregon fan. Obviously, like that stories can be told at another time. I might have already said that, but the other one is obviously, and we referenced this when you were talking Washington, when we talked about Washington going into Michigan, when Oregon went into Michigan and won that game in 2005 or 6, one of those years, those two games to me were like because of Dennis Dixon.
Yeah.
And that was large part due to the evolving offenses from the old 90s I formations and heavy sets and all this type of stuff to more of spread you out. I mean, like it was different than Steve Spurrier's air raid stuff at Florida. You know, like this was still running the football, but in spread sets. You know,
that's Mike Bellotti back in that 05, 06, 07.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, but he had already brought. I think in 07, I think Chip Kelly was already the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So his twist on things, you know, and like, gosh, I mean, I think it just goes back to like, I think Oregon would have won the national title in 2007, but Dennis Dixon tears his ACL against Arizona, and then the rest is history. So,
yeah,
that's mine right there.
Okay. I was surprised. I'm not surprised you didn't go with this game because it was one of the games. We'll do a quick honorable mention on a couple games.
Mm-hmm.
One of mine was 2012 Oklahoma, West Virginia, when Tavon Austin decided he was going to play running back and just went off for 300 yards.
Yeah.
Legitimately, I think it was like 312 and just tore up Oklahoma.
Sure.
And then
those big performance games are always going to be up there. You know, memorable games tends to take you to memorable moments. You know, like I would argue Roy Helu's performance against Missouri in 2009, 10, whatever that year was. I think it'd been Taylor Martinez, so it would have been 2010.
Yeah, it was 2010.
Yeah, like that
Thursday night game against Missouri in the rain.
And in a ranked Missouri group, you know, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
So that was not in the rain. This one was in Lincoln.
Okay, that's right. The rain game was the year before, and that was the Sioux.
That was and that was the Zach Lee like shaking his head like rah, 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 you know, like So, yeah. Anyway.
Is that the game? Oh no, it would have been the year before when Rigoni punched the Missouri fan. Walking off the field.
No, that was Bill Callahan, dude.
Yeah. So that was the year before the Helu game.
Yeah.
I still remember. Who was that on the call? Was that Mike Patrick? When he pulled the "Hello, goodbye."
Oh yeah.
Because he's running down the sideline.
Yeah. I don't know if it was Mike Patrick. Who's the guy? He was an older guy that had white hair and a long face. He kind of reminds me of Bill Walton.
Yeah.
That's who it was. I don't think it was Mike Patrick.
Yeah, I'd have to go back.
I can't remember what his name is.
Another one of the honorable mentions, the Penn State USC Rose Bowl game when USC came back from 14 down. Penn State has Saquon Barkley just tearing them up, and then SC comes back to win it.
Yeah, good pick.
Yeah, and that honestly was probably gonna be my last one, but you brought up the whole McDonough and the just listening and it being right there.
How about the only time McDonough's voice was never like correct the whole time? Like it just it was so crazy that he couldn't even speak in his normal voice. Michigan State punt.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, his voice broke twice.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, that's an easy one.
And it's blocked.
Yeah. On the last play of the game.
And then that Michigan State player dislocates his hip and has to medically retire from football.
Yeah, never plays again. But solidified himself in Michigan State history. So.
Yeah. Do you want me to bring up the one game you didn't, or you know what? I am going to bring it up because you brought up the Gretna title game.
Oh, I didn't identify which school. You just identified yourself.
Oh, I know. But everyone knew who you were talking about. TCU Oregon.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Talk about. Oh, okay, so Vernon Adams was the quarterback for Oregon at the time, and leads Oregon. This is 2015. Leads Oregon to a 31-0 halftime lead over TCU in an Alamo Bowl.
Yeah.
Vernon Adams gets hurt early in the second half, something stupid like that, and TCU proceeds to come back and win the game 38-31. Oregon did not score again because their backup quarterback freaking sucked.
Yeah.
Like couldn't even pick up first downs to chew clock. I mean, it was the most ridiculous thing that was, I mean, and then this is in the middle of the time where group texts are starting to be a thing.
Yeah.
You know, and so like I'm just getting hounded by Drew and Levi and another friend that we have, Corey, and like just text after text after text after text, and like to the point where I just want to take my phone and throw it against the wall. Like that was probably the most memorable on a negative side of things for me.
Yeah.
There's so many good games.
Yeah.
So many good games across the
board. There's so many that we're forgetting about. The hard part for me is I was trying to avoid recency bias.
Correct, yeah.
Because obviously we could have done the Alabama 4th and 28 against Auburn.
Yeah. Iron Bowls in itself are just always.
Yeah, the prayer at Jordan Hare.
How about South Carolina? That's Steven Garcia.
Yeah,
is that the guy's name?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't recall the details on that. I remember where I was, and I remember being super happy. Like anytime Alabama lost with Nick Saban at the helm, like that was a memorable game for me because it just didn't ever happen.
Yeah. So Johnny Manziel, guy. Dude. There was a game. I was in
Duke, Miami. I got one. Duke, Miami, where Duke completed the kickoff. Like Stanford Cal kickoff.
Yes.
But it was Duke beating Miami.
Yeah.
And Duke for the longest time they have just been horrible too. Like they're worse than North Carolina in terms of history, you know. And so like that was one too because it's Duke football, and now Duke football is like respectable.
Yeah,
like almost to the point where it's beat like in the last eight years they're more respectable than Nebraska. Like that's can't happen.
Well, Tim Elko, Manny Diaz.
Yeah,
it's a good group. No, I'm trying to remember if it would have been during Tebow or right after Tebow when Florida was number 1 and then Auburn kicks a game-winning field goal to knock them off.
I do not recall that one.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what year that was, but that was a game that comes to mind because I remember standing in my living room with my dad and both of us just like, oh shit. Like,
yeah.
That's a big one. Yeah, there's so
There's a
many games
ton.
that
I had one in my head, but then we went down this little.
yeah.
Oh my gosh! Then you forget because, I mean, there's just so many good ones. I mean,
I was in Iowa City when they knocked off #1 Penn State on a field goal, which I
okay.
feel like Iowa just wins every game on field goals. That was
Well,
Sean Green was the running back
how
for
about
Iowa.
Iowa over Ohio State when they won like 55-30.
Yeah.
It was like JT Barrett's Ohio State, and
Yeah.
our buddy Alex, who asked this question, he's probably not going to like that reference because I think in the email he said something about being an Ohio State guy.
Yeah.
So there's one for you that you may not like as much in terms of memory.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to dig it in a little bit further and talk about when Purdue upset Ohio State a couple of years ago?
Dude,
Rondell Moore went off.
I mean, that's not like we say a couple years ago, but now that was post-COVID, I think, or pre-COVID.
Yeah, it was.
I believe I was still. Oh my gosh, I might have been I'm not sure I was even in North Platte yet.
Dang. Yeah, that's been a while.
I feel like I watched that game in my house when I lived in Aurora.
Dang.
So
yeah, time
I'm not
flies.
sure. Yeah, it's crazy. But that good pick there too.
That'll be a good place.
You talk about Purdue, that atmosphere in Purdue, night games, and like how they started doing with the lights, the kind of rolling lights and stuff. I think they were kind of ahead of it. A lot of people on that like trend, and so they were creating a great atmosphere there too.
I was at Purdue last year, and it was a day game at Purdue is not fun. It was so boring.
Well, I can't imagine. So, speaking of being at places, this is kind of a different segue. When me and my wife went on our honeymoon, we made all these pit stops. Like we drove from Grand Island, Nebraska, all the way to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Okay. So we had made all these stops and stuff, and we went to a Braves game and all this stuff in Atlanta. But then on the way back up into South Carolina, we made a stop at Columbia just to go drive to see the stadium.
Yeah.
So we saw South Carolina's stadium. We went to Clemson. That was crazy because the town that Clemson is around is only like 1,400 people.
Oh, really?
And their campus is actually like out in the middle of nowhere. So like it's not like engulfed by city. It's like in these little hills and stuff, and it's a beautiful campus. Like it's awesome. And so getting out and getting to take a picture as close as we could to Howard's Rock and all that kind of stuff was kind of nice. And then on the way up, like we went through Conway and saw Coastal Carolina and all that stuff. And then on the way back home, we stopped in Knoxville and got pictures in Neyland. And that was awesome because open. Like they had a gate open. So I was like, well, frick it. Let's just go. So we walked inside. We walked inside and I got to stand inside Neyland Stadium, an empty Neyland Stadium, in the summer of 2013 or whatever, or 14.
Yeah.
And that was cool too. And then we did stop in Georgia. So like Athens, Georgia, that town is absolutely buried in trees. Like you can't, like every road you're on, you don't know that there's even anything outside of that street. So like getting out and going to Sanford Stadium and walking around there was pretty neat too. A lot of cool stadiums down there in SEC country, as they are well documented.
Yeah, I got to visit the old blue carpet this summer.
Yeah, Boise, man.
Yeah, they got a lot of construction going on up there, so couldn't get on the field, but got to see it from would have been the southeast corner. I sent you a couple pictures, and it was Boise's a really neat town. I actually enjoyed built into the foothills there, and just like you come over the interstate. It's like how people talk about coming into Vegas. That's how coming into Boise is. It is. Idaho is the most boring drive I've ever been on in my life. People can bitch all they want about Kansas and Nebraska. Go drive from Salt Lake City to Boise, Idaho, and then let me know if your mind changes.
Sure.
It's terrible. But you come over a hill and you just come into Boise, and it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it's on my bucket list of places I'd like to go see a game. Actually, kind of jealous that you have been able to see it.
Yeah. We'll end it there. We'll be back. Record Wednesday, probably drop Thursday, and we'll preview week
this
1.
Weekend.
Yeah.
Gonna be wild.
Awesome.
Guys got to come pay attention. Come watch for the episode on Thursday, because Thursday's drop is going to be a fun one with all the games leading up to this weekend. So
thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, 5 stars, all the good fun stuff. And we'll see you later.
And follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcast. If you're not able to watch us on video on YouTube, you can always listen on those podcast avenues on Spotify and Apple Podcast.
All right. Have a good one.
Later, y'all.